Today we are going to talk about public key cryptography. Actually, we have uh, okay, okay. So here today we are going to talk about public key cryptography. Actually, before we have the lectures regarding the private key cryptography, and we know that private key cryptography is talking about symmetric key encryption. And in the symmetric key encryption, the same key is used in both encryption and decryption. And we have seen even the two types of the most common used or famous, very famous symmetric, symmetric key encryption. The first one is advanced encryption standard or data encryption standard, which is this. And the second one is advanced encryption standard, which is AES. And we have the detailed explanation of each one of them, in addition to one with the random creation of a stream. All these are symmetric key because we are using the same key in the encryption and decryption. But today we are going to move to different type of encryption and decryption, which is public key cryptography. In public key cryptography, we are going to use not only one key, we are going to use two types of keys. We are going to use public key and private key. As we have seen before, regarding the public key cryptography, uh, we know that transferring a key is a disaster because the hacker can capture the key and then take all the data in the session. If he knows the key, he can decrypt all the data. So public key cryptography involves no transfer of the keys, no transfer of the keys. And of course, this is going to be more secure uh, cryptanalysis compared to symmetric key encryption. Now, the public key encryption can be used in most applications, so it is a general purpose technique that had made that has made symmetric encryption obsolete. This means, by the way, this expression is not totally true regarding the author. I don't know why he said that, but actually, symmetric key is used even nowadays and strongly. What what he means is that you should use public key encryption even with symmetric key because symmetric key need some type of key management. So any application prefer to use the public key encryption in key management and the symmetric key for the encryption itself. So now we can say that symmetric key encryption is not obsolete as he said, but we can use it together with public key encryption. So the key distribution in the public key is very easy. I will tell you next lecture about the how the transfer keys. You can send a key to some other party without physically transfer the key. So you and me, we can agree on a common private key. You know the key and I know the key, but we didn't transfer the key itself. We just sent some information to calculate this key, but we don't send the key itself. The key is not transferred. But after some calculations between you and me, we agree on a private key. You know it and I know it. There is no transfer of that key. For the hacker to get the key, he should make the calculations that we have made, but he don't know how to make it, and it is difficult to make it. So we can say the public key encryption, the key distribution in public key encryption is very easy. I will tell you an example next lecture. Really very easy. You can send a key to another party without sending the physical key. You can send the other information, public information, and using this public information, we can agree on a common private key. And of course, we know that the symmetric key encryption needs some center. We can say or organization or center for distributing the key, and this makes the key distribution in the symmetric key encryption obsolete, really obsolete, because we don't use it anymore. So the principles of public key crypto systems, the we have or the concept of public key encryption, we try to avoid the attacks by solving the most common problems here, which is key distribution and digital signature. The key distribution means that it is not simply sending a key from party A to party B. This is going to be captured easily. So key distribution is how to communicate in general without having to trust a key distribution center with your key. You don't need to have a third party center for your key distribution. I can immediately talk with the receiver and tell him about my key. And this is the first one. The first one, key distribution. Most of the attack coming from capturing the key. The second one is digital signatures. And digital signatures means I know who sent the message. I know who sent the message. If there is no digital signature, I will not be sure about the sender of this message. Maybe I have been faced with man in the middle attack. So if man in the middle attack is easy, this means this is not good a crypto system. But adding the digital signature means I'm sending the data and I'm sure that I'm taking the data, I'm receiving the data, and I'm sure that this message or this data comes from the one who I'm expecting. So the data come from Ahmed. I know that I'm sure that it came from Ahmed, not from somebody else, not from a hacker making man in the middle attack. That's why we have the key distribution and digital signatures. The Diffie and Hellman, they are two scientists from Stanford University. They really achieved a breakthrough in 1976 by coming up with a method that addressed both problems above here, the key distribution and digital signature, and was radically different from all previous approaches to cryptography. Starting from this date, 1976, we have the public key crypto system. This is the first time to hear about the public key crypto system. The idea of having a key transferred between A and B without transferring the physical key. This is the first time to hear something about that. Just so Diffie and Hellman actually, they make a breakthrough in crypto systems. They added the public key cryptography, and starting from that day, there are many other types of public key cryptography developed from their idea. A public key encryption has 6 ingredients. The components of the public key cryptosys. The first component is the plain text. The plain text, as you know, it is the data that we can read without any problem. We can read it like plain text, like for example, you are sending an email, you are sending a message on WhatsApp, you are sending a file. This is a plain text. The second one is encryption algorithm. And the encryption algorithm means the transformation that is done on the plain text to come up with ciphertext. The kind of transformation that is applied on the plain text to come up with the ciphertext. For the public key, for the public key, we have the third component here. We have a public key, we have a private key, we have a ciphertext, we have the decryption algorithm. So the public key is that it is used either for encryption or decryption. The private key is also used for encryption or decryption. The ciphertext is the scrambled message produced as an out. The ciphertext is, after applying the encryption algorithm on the plain text, we come up with the ciphertext. The last thing here is that we can have encryption algorithm and decryption algorithm. Actually, we can have the same algorithm to make encryption and decryption, but this is not common in public key encryption, as we have seen in symmetric encryption. We have the Feastel cipher. The Feastel cipher is easy because we are using the same algorithm for encryption and decryption. But here we are going to use different types of algorithms, one for encryption and the second one for decryption. Here we see that we have two types of communication between the sender and the receiver. For the public key encryption, the first one is we can say this is public keys. These are the Bob's the public key. And Alice takes one of the public keys and make encryption on the plain text and transfer the ciphertext. Then, you know, this is Alice's public key. So Bob has Joe public key, Mike public key, Alice public key, Ted public key. He has all of these public keys. And for example, he wants to communicate Alice. So Alice will take her own public key and then encrypt the algorithm, or sorry, to encrypt the plain text using the encryption algorithm, which is RSA. It will come up with what? With ciphertext. This ciphertext is moved to the receiver, and the receiver is Alice. So Alice has her private key, so she uses her private key to decrypt the data and come up with the plain text again. This is one way. There is another way of having the same effect, but in different way. The same effect, but in different way. Bob can use his private key to encrypt the algorithm, to encrypt the plain text using the encryption algorithm, and then Alice here will use the public key of Bob to decrypt the message. So this way is okay, and this way is also okay. This one is used for secrecy. This one is used for secrecy. And this one is used for authentication. Why is that? Secrecy means that confidentiality. I'm sending confidential data. Nobody knows the plain text. Nobody can extract the plain text out of the ciphertext. But here, the application is used for authentication, means I'm sure Alice here she is sure that this data came from Bob. If she can decrypt it using his public key, so she is sure that the sender is Bob, not somebody else. So this is application for authentication, and this application for confidentiality or secrecy. For the confidentiality, here we have the public key pairs. We have a public key pairs. We have a public key for Alice. We have a public key for Bob. And here we have the public key of B, which is the destination. We use the public key of B to encrypt the data and come up with a plain text, then move to the destination. He uses his private key to decrypt the data and come up with the plain text. Here we have the cryptanalysis, or the attacker can see what he can see. The Oscar, or the attacker or the hacker, can see what? He can see the plain text. He can he can see the X hat, or the encrypted data. He can see the encrypted data, and he also, he's not talking about what he can see. He's talking about he want to do what? He want to do what? He want to have the plain text of the encrypted text here. And also he want to guess the private key given the public key. Here he want to have two information. If he get one of them, it's okay. He can guess the plain text using the ciphertext, and also he want to guess the private key using the public key, because he can see the public key already. So he trying to guess the private key using the public key. For authentication, this is different from that one. You see, this is different. This is confidentiality. We are using the public key for encryption and private key for decryption. Here we are using the opposite way around. We use the private key for encryption and the public key for decryption. Okay? And here we have the pair of public key and private keys. The first one is private key of A, which is the source, and the encryption algorithm using the private key to come up with the Y, which is the ciphertext, using the private key of A. Using the public key of A, we can decrypt the message back. Here, the cryptanalyst, or the hacker, the cryptanalyst or the hacker, is trying to guess the private key using the public key. He is trying to guess the private key using the public key. Okay, so we can combine all of these together. We can combine these two slides, this one, that one, together in one slide to come up with very strong algorithm that uses authentication and secrecy at the same time. We can use the first stage is to encrypt the data using the private key of A, and then encrypt it again using the public key of B, then moving to the sender, the receiver, and then do the opposite with the private key of B, sorry, and then using the public key of A to decrypt the data back. It is just a combination between these two slides to come up with this, the algorithm. Can anyone, I want to end up at this slide, but I want to ask you a question, and I want to have your responses about that question. Do you know what is the problem? Can you guess what is the problem in this algorithm? We know now we can make authentication, so we know who sent the message, and we can make sure of secrecy, so we are sure of the confidentiality of the data. So, but there is still a problem. Can you tell me the problem? Can anybody tell me, guess what is the problem? Nobody? Compared to the previous one here and that one, we have we have we had a problem. After using both of them, we had a problem. Anybody knows? Guess anything. It's okay.
Sir,
Yes.
I guess I think the problem is the key.
The problem is which key
One minute.
is not related to the algorithm itself. It's it's a good guess, but I want another trial. Okay. Okay, so the problem, okay, because we don't have too much time, because you still have 2 minutes, maybe you have a lab to do or something. The problem is what? The problem is performance. Performance. We complicated the algorithm. We have make sure of authentication and secrecy, but we paid some performance. We paid for some performance. Okay? We paid off some performance. The good expression is, the exact expression is, we get rid of some performance. Okay, according to this, we, as I told you, we have a balance, the balance between complexity and easy of use. We have to make a trade-off between both of them. We have added more layers, but we complicated the algorithm. We degraded the performance of the algorithm. So that's all for today, and thank you. I will take the attendance. Bear a minute with me, please.